February is Black History Month, when we try to heal racial wounds by separating people's histories according to the color of their skins. What could go wrong with that? But in truth, the history of black people in this country is a great story of one race's struggle against the persistent enemies of human rights, Democrats. You may have heard people speak of the Democrat Party in such sentences as, "Watch out, don't step in that Democrat Party," or "Run for your life, my black brothers and sisters, here comes the Democrat Party." But did you know the party was founded in the 1820s by former slave trader Andrew Jackson and was, from its start, the party of black slavery? As the Civil War approached, the Democrats split into two factions: the Northern Democrats, who were pro-slavery, and the Southern Democrats, who were really pro-slavery. Fortunately, this Black History Month, we can celebrate the fact that suffering black slaves found an ally in the 1850s with the start of the Republican Party, founded by Abraham Lincoln with his slogan, "Free labor, free land, free men," and tall, funny-looking hats. Not sure what the hats were about. After Lincoln freed the slaves, however, angry Democrats formed anti-black terrorist groups like the Ku Klux Klan, funded by George Soros. Okay, I'm kidding about Soros. He wasn't alive back then. I don't think. Anyway, Democrats also passed the so-called Jim Crow laws, meant to segregate blacks and strip them of the freedoms the Republicans had helped them win. Yet, inexplicably, in 1912, many black Americans deserted the Republicans to vote for Democrat progressive Woodrow Wilson, a virulent racist who purged blacks from his administration and brought Jim Crow-style segregation to the federal government. As the 20th century progressed, Democrat bigots like George Wallace, Orville Forbes, and Bull Connor did everything they could to defend Jim Crow against the growing civil rights movement. It's true that as the tide of opinion turned, wily Democrats like Lyndon Johnson got on board the civil rights train. But far larger percentages of Republicans than Democrats backed those efforts. Black Americans began to move up into the middle class, but not so fast. Democrats now unleashed welfare policies that fatally weakened the black family, helping to cause a plague of fatherless households that contributed greatly to black crime and multi-generational poverty. And today, Democrat abortion policies kill more black Americans than the 7 leading causes of death combined. Luckily, there have also been Republicans. Richard Nixon, who quietly battled segregation, Ronald Reagan, whose economic policies lifted black Americans more than almost any other group, and Rudy Giuliani, whose law and order push helped save thousands of black lives. Each of these men was reviled as racist by Democrats and the media. But I repeat myself. There were still setbacks ahead. Under Democrat Barack Obama, black Americans grew worse off in almost every economic category, including employment, homeownership, and the wealth gap with whites. Happily, however, Republicans have now retaken control of the government, and so blacks are once again celebrating this Black History Month. Unless, that is, they know nothing about black history. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shaped, ipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
Okay, you know what this is. It is one day away from Mailbag Day. That's right. If you subscribe to thedailywire.com, just a lousy $8 a month. Ooh, hold on just a minute. I'm going to now cough. There you go. If you subscribe to thedailywire.com, just a lousy $8 a month, you can put your questions in the mailbag, and I will answer them, and all your problems will be solved. It will be an amazing experience for you, and you'll say, did I really need that $8 after all? Of course not. All right, so that's tomorrow. Tonight, Donald Trump addresses a joint meeting of Congress. It basically is a State of the Union address, but he hasn't been in office long enough to even know what the State of the Union is, if he ever finds out. This is going to be interesting, though. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's now reality time. Donald Trump has been this incredible, huge character. We've all watched what he's done. He's done all the executive orders. Now he has to go before Congress and basically say, this is the kind of thing I want. And these speeches are never very specific. It's never like dollars and cents, but he's going to ask for a big increase in defense spending. Although people are saying it's a big increase, he said it's an historic increase. It's not that much because Obama really did leave us with no military and the world in flames. So thanks, Obama. It was like great. We have no army to fight with, and we have no army to fight with, and the Middle East is going up in smoke, and Russia is taking over things. And, so here is Trump discussing, he had a meeting with the governors, and here he is talking about defense, and what he says is absolutely true.
We must ensure that our courageous servicemen and women have the tools they need to deter war, and when called upon to fight in our name, only do one thing: win. We have to win. We have to start winning wars again. I have to say, when I was young in high school and college, everybody used to say, we never lost a war. We never lost a war. You remember. Some of you are right there with me, and you remember we never lost a war. America never lost. And now we never win a war. We never win. And we don't fight to win. We don't fight to win. So we either got to win or don't fight it at all. But where we are, 17 years, almost 17 years of fighting in the Middle East, we're up, I saw a chart the other day, as of about a month ago, $6 trillion we've spent in the Middle East. $6 trillion. And I want to tell you, that's just unacceptable. And we're nowhere. Actually, if you think about it, we're less than nowhere. The Middle East is far worse than it was 16, 17 years ago.
The reason everybody is holding their breaths as Trump goes before Congress is there's just no way around this. There has been a political earthquake in this country. The election of Donald Trump signals the end of something. I mean, we came into that election with basically two choices. Either this kind of Trumpian populism, economic nationalism, Steve Bannon calls it, or we were going to have the slow death of socialism. And make no mistake about it, socialism is slow death. The socialists have been pointing to Europe for 70 years, saying, oh, look, the wonderful socialist programs. First of all, it's not really quite true. There's a lot of capitalism still alive in places like Britain. But socialism just takes 70 years to kill a country. That's what it does. And when you look at Europe now, you are seeing a slow motion invasion. You're seeing a slow motion invasion of these countries by people from the Middle East, by Muslims who are completely upending the culture in these countries because they haven't got. People have to have meaning in their lives. It's not enough. It's not enough for Elon Musk and other billionaires to have meaning. You have to have meaning. Everybody has to have meaning. And socialism sucks the meaning out of life. It just, they give you food. It's like being in prison, basically. They give you food, they give you shelter and everything. They feel great about themselves, and you have nothing to do. You have no impetus to build a family, no impetus to make a success out of yourself, no reason to channel your ambitions. And that was what we were facing with the election of Hillary Clinton. I don't know if it would have taken only 8 years. It might have taken longer than that, but it was obviously coming down the pike. There was no third choice. There was no choice between death by socialism, Trumpian populism, and something else. That choice didn't exist in that election. So now we've got this earthquake of Trumpian populism, and everybody wants it to go away. All the establishment, they want it to go away. And they're all saying, oh, now it's going to get serious. Now the executive orders were fine, but now he's got to toe the line. The Wall Street Journal ran an editorial today called Trump's Reality Test. And they said, this Trump and Steve Bannon light show, the immigration limits and deportation ramp up, the broadsides against globalism, the rhetorical assaults on the media as the enemy, these have produced an approval rating of 44% 5 weeks into the job. That's a modern low for a new president and a sign that the polarization strategy pressed by Mr. Bannon, his ally Stephen Miller, and the Breitbart wing of the White House has a political ceiling. The central problem is that the Bannon agenda and style can't produce the results they they promise and may undermine the rest of Trump's agenda. Tariffs that reduce trade won't spur the growth Mr. Trump needs to lift incomes. A too harsh crackdown on immigration will cause labor shortages that induce more U.S. production to move offshore, especially in agriculture. The attacks on the media may satisfy Mr. Trump's core supporters, but they also create animosity and more political headwinds for his agenda. All of this has begun to build incentives for Republicans to distance themselves from the White House. The thing is, there is no distance from the White House. The distance from the White House is political wilderness. We cannot have this first 6 months of this presidency when the Republicans have every house, every branch of government. You can't have them distancing themselves, but this is what the establishment is rooting for because they want to see Trump stop. They want to see Trump stop saying these things. By the way, some of these things I agree with. I agree that tariffs, can be really dangerous. This too harsh crackdown on immigration, it's absurd. These systems are broken. The system, you cannot have a system of people pouring across the border without policing, people coming in on visas and staying. You cannot have it. It's offensive. It's offensive to a country to people in a country to have their laws broken at will and have the officials the people in charge do nothing about it. Trump, look, and especially with Bannon, this thing with the media. I understand why the Wall Street Journal and other media people are against it, but Bannon is right. He's right about the media, and he's right about the administrative state. The administrative state has been ripping off people's Fifth Amendment rights for too long. When an agency, an unelected agency, can come to you and say, oh, you violated our regulations that nobody voted for, and now we get to try you, and we get to fine you, and we get to convict you, and you can't even appeal, which is what these guys do, that needs to be dismantled. That is part of the left-wing state. And so, these guys are afraid of Bannon, and I understand why. He's smart, and he's aggressive, and he sometimes says things that are that just sound a little bit like they'd be better off in the original German. But you have to admit that something happened. You have to admit there's been a change. Not only has there been a change, this post-war structure that we've had for all these years since 1945 is over. It's over. It has just led, you can tell it's over because it was leading to the death by socialism. Bret Stephens is a guy, he's the foreign policy writer for the Wall Street Journal. I really like him. I really think he's intelligent. But listen to some of the stuff he says. He's talking about the fact that Trump often says one thing, we should take the Iraqis' oil, and then his people say something else. Like Mattis says, no, we're not going to take the Iraqi oil. Trump says, I will listen to a one or two state solution in the Middle East. Nikki Haley goes to the UN and says, no, we're still dedicated to the two-state solution. So Bret Stephens says, these people should get to Trump and get his message straight. And this is what he says. Now, this is a really bright guy who knows a lot about foreign policy. Should the administration support a two-state solution? It should, provided Palestinians can shut down Hamas, end anti-Semitic incitement, live in peace with their neighbors, and respect their own people's civil liberties. But that's never going to happen. That is never going to happen. It doesn't make any sense. Is NATO obsolete? Not at all, unless its cheapskate members make it obsolete by refusing to spend on defense. But that is what they're doing. They are refusing to spend on defense. So that's all Trump is saying about that. Is the U.S. in favor of the crack-up of the European Union? No again, but that's where the EU is headed unless European elites heed legitimate popular grievances about unassimilated immigrants and the economic crush of mothers. I mean, these are just things that aren't going to happen. It's like saying, do we support the EU? Yes, but no. Do we support a two-state solution? Yes, but no. Is NATO obsolete? Yes, but no. Trump is there. He is elected because people knew that things weren't working. And to have the Wall Street Journal telling us that Trump has got to go back to the way things were is a problem in itself. The real problem that we're facing, that Trump is facing, is this thing with Paul Ryan, that he and Paul Ryan have different visions. But obviously Trump is the president, and Ryan has been playing it that way. Ryan has been very respectful. But ultimately, if you're going to raise defense spending, you're going to have to find the money somewhere, and that means cutting back on entitlements, Social Security, and health care. Social Security and health care and net interest now comprise nearly 60% of all federal spending, and that figure is expected to soar to 82% over the next 10 years. So Ryan is right about this, and Trump has made these promises, and he's obviously, it feels very important to him to keep his promises. Good for him. But you can say, I'm going to keep these promises, but if you're 20, if you're 30, by the time you get to Social Security, things are going to change. That's all you have to do. All you have to do is raise the level at which the age at which people start to collect Social Security, and you can work that stuff out. You don't have to do it for me because I'm going to collect Social Security in about 15 minutes, I think. But the show is over. I should be collecting Social Security. But you got to do it for people who are 20. Anyway, Ryan and Trump are at least making noises like they sound the same when they talk about Obamacare. Here's Trump on Obamacare. This was my favorite thing that he said, I think it was yesterday.
And we have come up with a solution that's really, really, I think, very good. Now, I have to tell you, it's an unbelievably complex subject. Nobody knew that health care could be so complicated. And statutorily and for budget purposes, as you know, we have to do health care before we do the tax cut. The tax cut is going to be major, it's going to be simple, and the whole tax plan is wonderful. But I can't do it until we do health care because we have to know what the health care is going to cost, and statutorily that's the way it is. So for those people that say, oh, gee, I wish we could do, the tax first, it just doesn't work that way. I would like to do that first. It's actually, tax cutting has never been that easy, but it's a tiny little ant compared to what we're talking about with Obamacare.
So Donald Trump discovers that health care is complex. I love that, Like, who knew? Who knew? Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. All these people rooting for him to go establishment, all these people rooting for him to go mainstream, to be the ordinary guy that they want to see because they don't like things getting shaken up the way the voters want them, the voters who elected Trump anyway, want them shaken up. They keep pointing to his low polls, but the Democrats are doing worse. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, and we're going to go back and talk about a little bit more about the Oscars, but you got to come over to thedailywire.com to hear it. And if you do, while you're there, subscribe for a lousy $8 a month, and you can put your questions in the mailbag. The answers will change your life, possibly for the better.